Hey everyone, this is the Peaceful Warrior here to give you my latest review slash rant of Naruto chapter 601 entitled Obito and Madara. As you all know, this week's chapter came out very early, so that's why I'm just now getting my review out the door. But nonetheless, here we are. So coming into this week's chapter, there were three things that were confirmed in last week's chapter. Number one, Toby is definitely Obito. Number two, Obito established a relationship with Madara after his death and prior to Madara's actual death. And through this relationship, he was able to acquire the skill, the prowess, and the intelligence to be able to do the things we see him do as Toby. Third, and this is pretty much what consumed the discussion about last week's chapter, we know that Obito became Toby because Kakashi let Rin die. And if you've seen my previous videos on this, you already know where I stand. You know how I think it's petty and trivial, only because Rin herself is petty and trivial. They weren't in a relationship, they weren't married, had no kids. They were kids themselves, so it's like, for you to do all of this over a crush that you had in your youth, to me, is pretty obscene. And you could have just hooked up with another woman. It's not like she was the end of the world. So to speak. But with all that being said, last week's chapter left off with Madara coming on the battlefield and saying, so this is where you're having fun, Obito. And that was where it was confirmed that they had established a relationship with one another. So, in the beginning of this week's chapter, Madara is on the battlefield, and Guy, Kakashi, and Naruto are like, if you're here, then what the hell happened at the other battlefield? And Kakashi is like, wait a sec. You mean to tell me that the Madara that was fighting the Kages is now over here? And Obito is looking at Madara and he's like, dude, of all people, I should have known that you could break through the Edo Tensei. And pretty much Madara is like, well, look, if I'm here, what the hell do you think happened to them? Of course they got their asses whooped. I'm Madara Uchiha. And to be fair, you know, when he was just testing, when he was just playing around with them, they were no match for him. So imagine when he got serious. Speaking of which, it flashes over to the other battlefield, and we see the Kages either dead or on the verge of dying. And Tsunade summons Katsuyu to the battlefield, and just before she's about to speak, Katsuyu says, I can put your body back together. So we see Tsunade filleted open by a large piece of wood. And first of all, I'm like, how in the world is she able to summon anything or do anything in that condition? Why is she not dead? I don't care what type of technique she has to, restore her life. She's literally split in half. And yet she's telling Katsuyu, don't worry about my body. Just bring me the 5 Kages, the other Kages, because I can still save them. And worry about my body later. I'm like, well, what the hell is she supposed to be able to do that can save the other Kages when she should be dead herself? Nonetheless, it flashes back, and Madara tells Obito, he's like, dude, this is only a shadow clone. Where's the real body? And it catches Kakashi by surprise, because even with Kakashi's level of visual prowess, he has never known that the Naruto that's been fighting alongside him has been a shadow clone. But Madara is able to make that distinction. So B is like, hey man, since you're just a shadow clone, do you mind? And Naruto pulls out the anti-Bijou stakes and hurls them at Obito and Madara. Just then, Obito detaches his fan and tosses it over to Madara and is like, hey man, this is yours anyway, go ahead and do your thing. Madara pretty much says, thank you, takes it, activates Sasano, and deflects the Bijou stakes. And with that, he's like, dude, You mean to tell me that you begun this jutsu and you didn't even have the 8 and 9 tails? And on top of that, you revived me in this form? Come on, man. We got to do better. This is not what we talked about. Like, dude, man, what the hell's been going on? Where's Nagato? Like, come on. We already discussed this. Our original plan was, first of all, you got to revive me at the right time. And you got to do it using the Rene Tensei Jutsu of Nagato's Rinnegan. And Obito's like, about that. I don't know what to tell you, man. He went rogue. He used it on the villagers instead. I mean, that's pretty much it. And Madara's like, can't trust nobody these days. That's pretty much what he implies. And he's like, all right, screw it. Don't even worry about it. It's too late anyway. Look, I'll capture the 8 and 9 tails. You take care of those two, i.e. Kakashi and Guy. And just then, in classic Naruto form, swooping down on the battlefield, thinking that raw power is going to be able to win it alone, he swoops down with a Rasengan-sized Bijou Dama. And everybody braces because they're expecting a massive explosion. But Madara takes his fan, and it seems to absorb the power of that Bijou Dama, that mini Bijou Dama. And he's like, Uchiha counter, something like that. And all the force of that Bijou Dama is deflected back against Naruto, and he goes flying. And then Madara leaps, and he's about to really hand it to Naruto and B. And Kakashi is like, Obito, man, why are you even with this guy? How could you be with somebody like this? And then we get a glimpse of the flashbacks that we've been desperately waiting for to explain how Obito turned to the dark side and became Toby, how he met Madara, and how Madara and Obito's relationship was formed. We see Obito lying on the bed. Half of his body is gone, but the half of the body that's gone is stitched up. And we see he's like, am I dead? And Madara, who's super old, is like, you're in the crevice between your world and the next member of the Uchiha clan. And that's pretty much where this week's chapter ends. Now, for me personally, there were a couple of things that I was disappointed with overall. Number one, I'm disappointed that Kishimoto has gone out of his way to miss the bulk of both fights involving Obito and Madara. And the reason why I'm disappointed is because how could you just show us the 5 Kages either dead or on the verge of dying? We don't know how it got that way. We didn't see Madara get serious, if you will, because him getting serious would have been much more epic and would have been much more entertaining than him just playing around. And it's like, how could you skip that? Like, how could you skip that heavyweight fight, but yet you don't skip a beat from these welterweight fights, these middleweight fights? You know, it's like he never had us skip a beat with the Darui versus the Kinkaku brothers fight. He never had us skip a beat with Kankuro versus Sasori and Deidara fight. He barely had us skip a beat with Kakashi versus the 7 ninja, the 7 swordsmen of the Mist fight. And he didn't have us skip a beat with Itachi versus Kabuto and Sasuke. He didn't have us skip a beat with Itachi and Nagato versus Naruto and B. So it's like, if you're willing to focus on those fights and, you know, have us see those in detail, you know, why is it like you're willing to focus on the medical ninja being infiltrated and assassinated by White Zetsu, but it's like you skip the 2 fights that make this war worth watching? You know what I'm saying? Like, he skips 50 to 75% of both major fights between Naruto B. Guy and Kakashi, and between Madara and the Five Kages. And I just find that to be very disappointing. Um, but with that being said, yeah, the Tsunade being able to summon Katsuyu, like she still has the stamina and the chakra to be able to summon Katsuyu to the battlefield in her condition. Like she's able to do anything. That caught me by surprise. The flashbacks are good because these are the flashbacks that we need to have. The problem is that we've been fed so many BS flashbacks that by the time we finally get a glimpse of the flashbacks we want, it's like, damn, more flashbacks. But, you know, it's good because it's the right kind of flashbacks. So those are what we're going to see heading into next week's chapter. So next week's chapter is already headed off into a good direction. Um, for the most part, I really think that's it. If I think of anything else, I will be coming out with another video giving an overall critique of Kishimoto's handling of this war, because I understand that it's a different style from being in peacetime, so to speak, where he can just do his normal writing form and let the characters develop themselves. So I think that's it for right now, and thank you so much for viewing this video. Feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I look forward to engaging you all in a good debate. All right, take care.